Hi everybody, I've just made a video. I'm going to leave the link. It goes into a lot more detail than I'm going to be showing in this video, because this is just a short video to give people the basic news, but you must take in the information that's shared in the other video. It's a long video, but please, this is really important. I mean, as far as I understand, we were basically facing an act of terrorism, and we still are until we deal with this now, but I think I've just found the legal means of which to query this whole thing now. And so please pay attention, share this widely, and get in touch with the facts of what is going on, because I think I have legally identified is a coup. And basically they've given themselves the powers to incarcerate UK citizens willy-nilly just on the strength of somebody testing positive for coronavirus, which covers colds and flu and even to kill us and incarcerate us en masse. This is really serious what we've been facing. Now, just by chance, I discovered this because I did a search limited to between 2014 and 2019 to find the list of reportable diseases. So that's a notifiable disease, and in law, if somebody dies of a notifiable disease, then there has to be an inquest with a jury. Okay? And I discovered this because in the coronavirus bill that this government has just recently produced, they were saying that people don't need an inquest by jury because COVID-19 isn't a notifiable disease. I found out that it was. It's been listed at, watch the other video. I won't go into all the links here, but it was, and it was listed as a notifiable disease in March the 5th this year, because it's a new virus, isn't it? Now, so I found this. Now, this is a list of reportable diseases to be notified to the PHE health protection teams by prison and other detention centre healthcare teams. So this document solely applied to prisons and detention centre healthcare teams, so to children in secure units and what have you. Now, look at the date it's been published. Crown Copyright 2015, published March 2015. And this is a list of infectious diseases in prisons and other detention centres. And this is a list of reportable diseases to be notified to health protection teams by prison and other detention healthcare teams. And right at the top here is COVID-19. Okay, COVID-19, right at the top, 2015. Now, they're telling us that this, and it is, look, government services, everything's here. Okay, now they were telling us that this is a new disease. It's only just come about, and therefore we've got no immunity to it, and it's really serious, and it's going to kill millions of people. But it's been around since 2015. So now what does this tell us? Well, one, it tells us that it was this illness was identified, this particular strand of coronavirus was identified certainly by 2015 enough to make it a notifiable disease. Okay, that means it has to be reported to a government authority if it's found in prisoners. So they were prepared to protect prisoners in detention centres and stuff, okay, but not the public, not at that point. Now, does that account for the spike sorry, I've got the wrong link up there. Does that account for the spikes that we were seeing, in 2015? I don't know, and 1995 and 1996. But suddenly, just at the point that they know there's going to be a banking collapse, they suddenly decide to turn it into a pandemic and put everybody on a lockdown, and then tell us we've lost our jobs and actually it's COVID-19's fault, when this has been around at least since 2015 for it to be listed as a notifiable disease. Okay, so now this video is to look at the implications now of this, never mind the implications of the bill itself, the coronavirus bill, which is thoroughly corrupt and, well, I would say go so far as to say criminal. I mean, basically giving themselves powers to arrest and detain and isolate British citizens, minus all their human rights, away from family, no contact with anybody, on the strength that they've tested positive or reported being ill with a coronavirus, okay, which includes even the common cold, and they can kill people, cremate the bodies, and answerable to nobody. And even under martial law, this, you know, what we're facing is really serious, and that's why this is so important, and everybody needs to take note of this now, because if this has been around since 2015, why are we at this moment all on a lockdown and being told to keep a distance of 6 feet and being threatened with martial law and having all our human rights stripped up from us? Okay, so why is Parliament shut down right now? And this bill has been passed while Parliament, as far as I'm aware, I might be wrong on that, but as far as I'm aware, this bill has been passed with no scrutiny whatsoever. Well, Parliament shut down. So that means, actually, Parliament has been, again, unlawfully prorogued by a deception, subterfuge, and they were relying on what they call public ignorance, right? The fact that the public are mystified about most things that this government deals with because they don't tell us. You know, BBC in 2015, no, but it took them 8 months to report this to us about all these mass deaths, okay? They were saying it was because the vaccine had failed that year. Oh, obviously they didn't want to panic people then. I mean, I was alarmed at the time because I was getting calls off nurses in nursing homes and families telling me that they can't get in to see the parents. Nurses told not to go to work and they're not allowed to contact the press. And masses and masses of elderly people were dying in these nursing homes that were locked down suddenly and staff brought in from outside. Okay, and I was trying to raise the alert. Nobody would listen, you know, but then 8 months later the BBC comes along and explains, oh, it was because the vaccine had failed that year. So what, you know, because, so basically, according to the way the law works, ignorance can be exploited. If people are ignorant, like you leave your door wide open and somebody comes in and steals something, well, you know, you are partly responsible because you've ignored the fact that your house is at risk. So this is really, really, really serious. And just hold on a minute, I've got a cat squeaking in the background. So basically, you know, ignorance can be exploited. It is up to us. So, you know, they obviously weren't counting on somebody finding this, or this government has forgotten what was done in 2015 because, you know, who was, they obviously weren't paying attention. And so, yeah, that means that Parliament has been unlawfully prorogued again by a deception with an intent to commit harm to the British people, strip us of our human rights and have the powers to kill us and cremate our bodies, dispose of our bodies without any legal representation or even being denied contact, you know, being taken into isolation. And they're actually building these isolation centres already all over the country, as the Bernician has stated very clearly here, you know. So this is really, really, really serious, and we need to be asking some serious questions now, because that does show motive and intent to, you know, prick that bubble of the banking crash that they knew was coming just at the time when they've announced this, COVID-19, as a new illness and a pandemic. And we've seen that this is happening all over the world, because we know that it's a global cabal, as Gordon Duff described them at Veterans Today, the global cabal, the new world order, and they want to take over every country and strip us of all our human rights. And so, yeah, so we've got evidence of a conspiracy. And evidence of a conspiracy to take over a nation and strip us of our human rights and even destroy our democracy, that is an act of tyranny. So, you know, we're talking internal and external tyranny here. And that this government, therefore, is an agent of who? They're not an agent of we the people. They're not representing us. They are actually a danger to us. And as I've said, that bill that they've just got together now, the coronavirus bill, well, that, you know, that is evidence. They're claiming they wrote that in a couple of weeks, but it's evidence of a conspiracy to commit crimes against us, to loot our nation again, to prevent us from protesting about another. Actually, this bailout, the bailout of 2008 looks insignificant compared to the amount of money that they're hoping to receive through this present bailout. And while we're not allowed to protest because we're all in fear for our lives over something that's been around since 2015. And then Boris Johnson, we've witnessed the show, haven't we? The show is exposed now, isn't it? We've witnessed the show. The show with Boris Johnson pretending, oh, it's nothing, let it run through the herd. Probably knowing full well about all of this a long time ago. And then that does then bring us back to the question about this last general election, which everybody is very suspicious about, because if they're prepared to commit an act of deception of this magnitude and use it to give themselves powers that are given here, are you telling me that they're not capable of rigging the postal votes with all the evidence that we have now about that? And even the BBC involved, and even the BBC complicit in all of this as well. So we are victims of an act of tyranny. And that means this government is a force of tyranny. And they've used deception and lies and played games with us, psyop games, psychological games. You know, Boris Johnson, the known liar, coming there, oh, it's not serious. The media, oh, he's a liar, the people, yeah, he's a liar. Oh, it is serious. And they've got it going on all over the world because they don't want Occupy again on steroids. Everybody losing their jobs, and now they're just going to sit back while we're on a lockdown and keep that lockdown until finally people break and there's a riot, and then they bring in martial law. We've got no rights, and it's the coronavirus bill suddenly. Everybody with a cold who identifies positive for a cold virus, you've got coronavirus, bang. They've even changed the meaning of coronavirus from the medical meaning to say it actually means SARS, when it doesn't. Coronavirus means every single cold and flu virus. They're all coronaviruses because they have spikes. That's why they're called coronaviruses. So please share this information, you know, and as I say, the opposition parties now, and even members of the Tory party, you know, I'm not against all members of the Tory party, I am specifically questioning this government, but everybody, we need to hold them to account now, because they've lied to us, and this is an act of deception then, because they've had everybody in fear and panic. And as I say, if they're prepared to go to these extremes, then of course they're capable of rigging an election to give themselves a landslide win, of which everybody was very suspicious of, because, you know, it just doesn't make sense that a country that no longer by majority wants Brexit, all the polls represent not the kind of Brexit that they want to give us anyway, which was a criminal act against us actually. There's Jeremy Corbyn, like thousands and thousands coming out to see him wherever he goes. And then there's Boris Johnson having to hide from the public, even hide from the press, but he wins by a landslide. I mean, none of it made sense. But now we are looking at absolute tyranny. So what is going on here? So now, you know, I have sent this to various people. Let the professionals deal with it. We do not want riots. We are going to deal with this peacefully, because we're going to think about the children, we're going to think about the elderly and the vulnerable people. We are not going to go around smashing communities up and what have you. They're our communities, they're precious to us. Okay? We're going to look after each other, stand by each other, and we together are going to demand that the powers that be, the security services, now arrest and investigate this government. That's the way we're going to do it, because we are a civilised nation, we're a lawful people, and that is the way we are going to do it. We're not going to have riots and mayhem. That is just what they want.